welcome to Round Robin. I'm your host, Robin McCormick, with the City of Hampton's Communications and Marketing Department. And today we're going to do a business focus on one of our Hampton businesses that you've probably never heard of. My guest is the owner, Mike Melo. Welcome, Mike.
Thank you, Robin. I'm glad to be here.
And your company is called ITA.
ITA, it's actually a quote. It stands for In the Arena. And my dad gave me that quote when I was 12 years old. And it's a quote by Teddy Roosevelt that talks about those in the arena and striving, and you either fail or succeed, but at least you're in the arena. And that's our philosophy. Our philosophy is to help those in the arena.
And in the arena means?
Well, we're mainly a defense contractor right now. We do a lot of training for the Navy, analysis, planning, and training. I call ourselves a support services company. So we support the mainly Navy, Marine Corps, with services such as we conduct mission analysis, we do some planning for them how to execute a particular mission. But the majority of our work is in the training arena, and we train anywhere from classroom instruction to computer-based training to unit level training to interoperability training, and we do that across the force, mainly for their expeditionary forces. So the force is located over in Little Creek.
Okay, so mostly for Little Creek, and I can tell by the way you talk, but also you've told me you have some military experience yourself.
Yes, I am. I'm retired Navy. I spent 23 years in the United States Navy as a surface warfare officer, and in and out of Norfolk. I'm actually from York County. I consider York County home. Been in and out of Norfolk on various ships across both coasts, and I retired back in 2002 from the Navy. And
you come from a military family. I'm going to go ahead and make you throw that
in. My dad is a retired Air Force fighter pilot. He retired out of Langley Air Force Base, and to me, my dad's my true hero. Okay, because he started in the Air Force in '48 and retired in '74, and flew something like 33 different airplanes.
Wow!
And so he is. I truly consider myself the American dream, because my grandfather immigrated from the Azores. My dad spent 27 years in the military. I spent 23 years in the military, and now I run a successful business. So I really am the American dream. What it's all about.
Well, you are a wonderful representation, too, of what is strong about Hampton Roads and Hampton with all of this military experience, and how you can then translate that to your second career.
That's exactly what I've always wanted to own a business, even when I was in the military, so I always wanted to start one. I retired and I spent a couple of years at ODU running a Troops and Teachers program.
Which is a wonderful program,
it's outstanding, because you get military people like myself into the classroom to help mold our young children. And actually, that's what my dad did when he retired from the Air Force.
Oh, did he?
Yes.
But
yes.
It's also so, they need training, because so much of what you do in the military, I mean, you have this wonderful force who is either retired or is out of the service now, but the experience, the experience is there, but
right.
It doesn't quite translate to the civilian jobs sometimes.
And that's exactly right. But it's interesting, because the Troops and Teachers, you highlight the skill sets that the military person brings to the classroom, and you give them some additional skills, and we do that across things. It's interesting, because I wasn't contracts when I was in the Navy. I was a ship driver, and running a business, I've had to learn a lot of business acumen from other military people that have retired and gone in the business world. But those skill sets from the military really helped prepare me to run this company, because all those things I learned about leadership and managing a budget and training and taking care of people, all those things that come from the military, the same things we do at ITA. We really, most of our people, 85% of us are former military in the company, and most of our people say this is as close to being in the military.
I bet it is.
But we leverage what we learned in the military to continue on being productive members of society in our new fields. So. And
what you have said, which I think is so interesting, is that you are looking a few years out, and you
right.
see that wars in Iraq and Afghanistan are winding down, the military's contracting, there's going to be less defense work. So
right.
You are, in some ways, repositioning your company for that future.
We are, and that's why we opened the office in Hampton. We were doing, like I said, we do training, and we were doing some diving training for the Navy. And I started looking at 5 to 10 years from now where the business is going to be here in the Hampton Roads area, because this is home for us. This is where we want to build our company. And we looked at the offshore energy industry. And you look at offshore energy, it's not just oil and gas, it's the offshore wind that they're talking about off the coast of Virginia, it's tidal currents, power and underwater turbines, there's all those things. And so we decided to go after an underwater services company, and so we started a commercial dive group. And we leveraged, again, our skill sets from the Navy. Frank Perna that runs our dive group, 31 years Navy diver. He led some very interesting, I told you, he led the recovery of the coal after that. He led a 200-man dive team off the coast of North Carolina. He's got a wealth of experience. And we purposely decided to build a quality company based on our military skill sets that was, a very professional organization. And the intent is to position ourselves, when oil and gas comes here in the next 5 to 10 years, position ourselves so we can be a player in that. And so that's what ITA is doing. So we'll always be a defense company. We'll always have defense work. But as that shrinks, where can we apply our skill sets? And we think it's in the offshore energy industry. And so we're positioning ourselves for that.
And even if it doesn't shrink, that other field is going to grow. Maybe you don't know when, maybe you don't know who the players are going to be, but if the idea is they need divers on whatever rigs they have out there in the ocean.
Well, there's when you just look at and being a Navy man, I understand maritime operations, I understand maintenance at sea, all those kind of things that we learn on Navy ships. When you're looking at an offshore wind platform, maintaining that platform is an incredible feat. And you put a complex piece of equipment at sea for an extended period of time, they have problems. And you look at the oil and gas platforms. I mean, they're very complex. They're all really ships when you look at a semi-submersible. And then the underwater turbines. All those things require some sort of underwater services. And so, we have built a company that has diving, but we also have an ROV capability. So
now tell me what that is again.
It's a remote operating vehicle. So it's basically it's a micro ROV, but it's a miniature piece of equipment with arms and a camera. We can send it down to 1,000 feet, and you can get video of whatever you're looking at before you put divers in the water.
So you know what you're going to be facing when you get down there.
Correct. And that's you start looking at the deep water operations that are being conducted in the Gulf, and the shallow stuff is all diver oriented, and you start going deeper, it's all ROV oriented. And so you got to have that capability across the piece.
So how are you going to build some of your capability? Because getting into energy is a little bit of a closed field. I mean, there's a hurdle there, a barrier to entry.
There is, and what our intention is to do is to make an acquisition of a company down in Houston, because Houston is the hub.
It's the center.
It is. All the majors
anyway.
are down there, and even on the global scale, they're all conducted operations from Houston. And so our intent is to make an acquisition in Houston to buy those skill sets and buy access to the marketplace. And then we will leverage that for our operations on the East Coast. So we'll have operations both in the Gulf of Mexico and on the East Coast of the United States. And as many people have said, Hampton Roads is the ideal place for any kind of energy off the East Coast, because there are 5 offshore wind projects on the East Coast. There is tons of oil and gas off the East Coast. And so Hampton Roads is the ideal place.
And you're centrally located, so if it's further north or further south, you don't have too far to travel.
That's exactly right. And our location here in Hampton is ideal for the Hampton Roads area, because we're located in the Copeland Industrial Park, right off of 664. So we can go to Norfolk, we can go to Portsmouth, we can go to Newport News. We can jump on the interstate and go to other locations. We have some jobs up at Pax River. Like I told you, we got to just finish a job in San Antonio, and we're going out to San Diego to do some work. So, by buying that acquisition is going to give us the capability to cover the Gulf, East Coast, and then expand our presence on the East Coast of the United States.
That is a lot of vision, and you've got a lot of startup costs before you get to the point where anyone is drilling or building platforms or wind on the East Coast.
It is, and that is true. But Hampton Roads has a big ship repair industry, and so we can do some of that. There's big marine construction, so you can start building your skill sets. The initial work in the offshore oil and gas, I mean, you got to clear the fields, you got to do the hydrographic surveys, all those kind of things. So there's some work there. But even you have to have a capability before they get here. Okay, and you look at Cape Wind, it has a lease off the coast of Nantucket, but they're not going to put steel in the water till 2017, 2018. So Hampton Roads, you're probably talking about 2020.
Right, because they just did those leases, and even then, you don't know when or if the company's going to exercise them.
Exactly right, but you have to be prepared. You know, I'm a military. See, it goes back to that
military
military
training. It's good training.
You prepare, you conduct your plans. I think there's business there. I think there's opportunities there. And our dive company, like I talked about, is we took and built a company on the quality that we brought from the United States Navy. And it's not, a fly-by-night. We invested heavy in equipment, and it was capital intensive for us as a company. But it was important to build the right capability and the right quality and the right services, so when we do a job for somebody, they know it's high quality. We did a job for the Army Corps of Engineers, and the diving supervisor said he had never seen a more professional dive unit than ITA after 34 years.
Oh my gosh,
and so
that's quite a compliment to the company you've built.
But I give credit to Frank Perner for building that right. I had the vision, but he did the nuts and bolts to put that together. But it's because of those Navy skill sets.
And so you have the flexibility to grow your business in all kinds of different directions, so you're not dependent on just one thing. Not just oil, not just gas, not just wind, not just the military, but whatever opportunities come up.
That's our intention, and it's called diversification, and companies have a lot of trouble doing that. And
it's hard.
I mean, if I was to, if an oil and gas company tried to come to defense, it would be a problem. And if a defense company tries to go to oil and gas, it's a problem. And that's why we're doing the acquisition, to give us that access and get the right experiences. So when you put those two together, they understand the capabilities, they can leverage those capabilities, and there's a synergistic effect that you'll be stronger as a company. And so we're taking a risk. Entrepreneurs always take entrepreneurs always take a risk. But I think there's, I like to say, calculated risk. We're taking a calculated risk, and we can take hits above the waterline. As long as they're not below the waterline, we're good to go. And I think it's a good investment for us.
So, Mike, about how many employees do you have now?
We have 65 full-time and 37 part-time.
That sounds like a good-sized business already. You're bumping up against that 100 number.
We are, and we expect to double in size next year. I mean, we have some work in the hopper, and if everything comes to fruition like we expect, we'll be doubling in size next year. And so we were actually, in 2010, we were the fastest growing company in the state of Virginia. We were number one on Virginia's top, or Fantastic 50, we were number one. So we just want to grow a company, and we want to leverage our military background to do that. I mean, the oil and gas industry is already doing this. They have this program called Veterans to Energy, and they have identified the skill sets that they need in the oil and gas industry and matched them up against the defense. And so they are actively recruiting veterans coming back from the wars to come in and work their workforce. I read an article yesterday in Ocean News magazine that says they need 37,000 new people in the oil and gas industry just to handle the demand. And then the workforce is aging, so there's going to be, you had to replace the people. That's just new people. And I'm not talking about the replacing people. So it's an ideal opportunity for us as a small business to get involved, bring veterans on board. It's a win-win for everybody.
It sounds like a win-win, and it's a win for Hampton to have your dive group headquartered there, if I can say so. Do you work with the economic development folks in that?
We do, and I'm glad to see Leonard Sledge on board, because I was working with him when he was up at William Mary, and it's an ideal place for us. And because of we're in a Virginia Enterprise Zone, and we have 2 lots. One is empty, one has a building on it. We have plans to expand, and Leonard's already hit me up, Yaz has hit me up, and they want to help me grow this business, and they want to help me make sure that the city of Hampton provides me the right resources to do that. So it's been very, very good for us, and we've been welcomed, because our headquarters is up in York County, and that's our analysis planning group, but our dive group is going to be focused here in Hampton, just because of the location.
That's great. And certainly Hampton's a good place to recruit employees and veterans as they either retire or leave the service.
Yeah, and especially for like Navy divers, a lot of those guys live on the south side, and so
it's so close.
It's a lot easier to come to Hampton than it is to go to Yorktown.
That's right.
And so it's been good for us.
That's wonderful.
And I can't say enough for the support from Leonard and his team. And they're doing a good job for us.
Well, we're glad to hear you. And I think the folks out there who have never heard of ITA now know what you are and what you do. And I hope we will be hearing much, much more from your company
I hope so
as you
too.
grow.
Thank you very much, Robin. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate it. And I hope you've learned a lot more about a new, exciting, growing business in Hampton. Thank you for watching.